What's good, everybody? Back with another video. Today, we're going to be breaking down the Miami Heat. I have the founder of Business Casual Basketball Podcast, Aaron Washington, also a good friend of mine. Super excited to have him on here. He's a big Heat guy, so excited to get to hear his views on this team. So we'll have a little bit. We got me as a Celtics fan, so we're a little opposed to the Heat, but then we got a huge Heat fan. So we'll get both perspectives in here. Aaron, how you doing today, man?
Fantastic, Devin. Thanks for having me on this installment. You've been killing it with these daily uploads and talking about all these teams, man. So props to you on that. And
Thank you, man.
Miami's my team, and I'm just always excited to talk about them. So excited for the opportunity and ready to get it going.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I said opposing sides, but I can't hate on the Heat. Like, this is a team you got to respect, no matter who you're a fan of in basketball, especially after watching what they did in the bubble. And they have a lot of players returning from that bubble team. You got Jimmy Butler, you got Bam, you got Duncan Robinson, you got Tyler Hero. Like they still got a handful of players from that finals run, which is really nice to have.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm excited for what they'll be able to do this season, man. Some big acquisitions and some lofty expectations. So I'm hoping that kind of put last season behind us and some of those roadblocks we encountered and get back to some winning ways because, with the salary being shelled out and the players being brought in, they're not looking for just a playoff appearance. A ring is in the cards. It's what's expected. So that's what we're looking forward to, and we'll see how it goes, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got Bam and Jimmy that are really the leaders of this team. They're returning players from that finals team. So I feel like these are really like those top two like leaders in the locker room, leaders in the team. Obviously, you got Udonis Haslem, that's a locker room leader, but we know he doesn't see the floor too much. So they really got some quality leadership here. We know Jimmy's a vocal guy. We've heard it in the media time and time again. So how do you feel about this leadership that y'all got here?
I am a huge fan of the leadership on this team. I mean, it starts with the top. Mickey Arison, Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra are some of the best, managers, leaders in the NBA, in my opinion. And then it's just a trickle down effect. So Jimmy is an awesome leader. He's very outspoken. So he kind of pushes the people the wrong way sometimes. But at the end of the day, you can't hate on the guy, just his passion for basketball. And then from there, I mean, even Bam is stepping up as a leader more these days. He's going into his fifth season in the NBA. So high expectations on his end. And then bringing in guys like PJ Tucker, like these guys are veterans. A lot is expected of these guys. And I think they're going to have a major impact on this team. Guys like Tyler Hero are coming up and they're looking for guidance. They're looking for people to kind of lead them in the right direction. So I think as you kind of go down the line and you just look at who they've brought in, Kyle Lowry, another big name on that end. There's a lot of guys coming in here. They're going to have profound effects on this team for guys that are, a little bit younger looking for guidance. So I love who Miami brought in, and I'm expecting a lot of the veterans. And I think they're going to kind of lead by example and just make it tough for opposing teams to go against them just every night with a combination of toughness and just smarts from all the years they played in the league so far.
Yeah, absolutely, man. They've got a lot of veterans on this team, and I think that the veteran leadership there is going to be great. Like I mentioned, Udonis Haslem, you mentioned Lowry, Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker coming in fresh off a championship. Like you got some boys there that know what they're doing.
Sure. Yeah, I'm excited for what they'll be able to do, man. And there's a couple of guys. There's some X factors there. I think Hero and Oladipo are going to be guys that they're really going to kind of make or break this season, depending on what version of them they get. So there's definitely a variety of outcomes for this team, but I think if everybody kind of stays on point and they kind of stay in their lane and do what they're expected to do, then the sky's the limit for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So a note I've got down here is y'all have some really good shooting potential. I don't want to say really good shooting to start off the bat because we've seen the ups and downs of some of these guys, but you got Duncan Robinson, that's what he's making his money for, is he's a sharpshooter. You got Tyler Hero, who his rookie year showed some very good flashes of shooting. You got Max Strus, which is another good shooter. And then you got Lowry, that was a 40% three-point shooter last year. So y'all really got a lot of floor spacing potential. And that'll really help out with Jimmy because he's not the greatest of shooters, but he can do just about everything else.
Right.
So what do you think about the shooting on this team?
I'm very, I think the shooting is going to be a big deal for these guys because last season they really underachieved in that department. Duncan it's funny with Duncan because I think 2 years ago, I mean, or 2 seasons ago, because I think, a year ago now is 2 seasons ago, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But we expected him to be like a 42, 43% shooter from three, just absolutely absurd. And then last season, he regresses a little bit to probably around 40, which is still really good. But for Duncan, it's a little bit lower than his standards. So
Right.
I think there's definitely a potential for a bounce back season with the shooting. Max Strus, a borderline kind of rotation player for last season, comes in with confidence from summer league, and he's a sharp shooter. So I think between the two of them, and I think Oladipo has something to offer coming back. And then with Lowry, one of the best at coming off a screen to just pulling up from deep. So between those guys, I think there's a high ceiling for shooting, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest indicators on like how Miami is going to do this season. Just depending on if they can just hit shots from there. So if they can, opens up the floor for Jimmy and Bam to do their thing. And then I think the offensive rating just kind of takes off if they're able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. This team's definitely going to depend on that shooting consistency. Like I said, they got the talent for it. The consistency just has to be there this year. You mentioned Oladipo a couple times now. I think this dude's going to be pretty much that X factor on this team. We're really hoping to see him come back fully recovered from that quadriceps injury. So do you like Oladipo potentially coming back and making the starting lineup at some point, or do you not really feel like he's going to get to that point this season?
Honestly, man, I mean, I'm a huge believer in Oladipo. Like, he's one of my favorite players, and I've been rooting for him before he got to Miami. I've been rooting for him since he got drafted, honestly. Like, he's one of my, I just love the way he plays. He reminded me of D Wade coming into the draft. So that's why I kind of latched onto him, and I was a fan early on. And I think he's going to definitely kind of start real slow, and the team is going to take their time kind of bringing him along. As for the starting lineup, I want to say no at this point. I want to say that it's kind of solidified. Anything could happen, but I think having Lowry, Duncan, and Jimmy is a good balance of defense, playmaking, and shooting that I think they're going to stick with. If something happens, like Duncan goes down with an injury, God forbid that happens, or Jimmy or something like that, I think Oladipo is capable of stepping in a pinch as his Hero. But I think Hero and Oladipo in that second unit is a good look for Miami. But I still think that Oladipo could be a good option to go with if they're closing games, they need a little bit more defense or secondary playmaking or something like that. Then I like Oladipo as an option. But if I had to say it right now, I'd say maybe more of a bench player, but still getting some consistent minutes and with the opportunity to close games to still be able to get his value back up going into free agency next year.
Yeah, he's definitely betting on himself. Kind of had to at that point with the quad injury. Kind of had to bet on himself with that small contract there. So he's got to come out and prove something this year, I think.
Sure.
So another player I really want to talk about, talked about him with you a little earlier in the off season. Omer Yurtseven, I think is how you say his last name.
I think it's Yurtseven. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But either way, tough name to pronounce, but super excited to watch this guy come out and play. It'll be his official rookie year. Spent some time in the G League last year, so I know you got to see firsthand some of his play in the summer league. What do you think about him? What do you have? What expectations do you have for him this upcoming season?
Yurtseven, man, is a really intriguing player. I think he comes in a little bit older, so it's not like this 19, 20-year-old coming in with no experience. He's been on the floor. He's been in close games before big games. Not sure if you guys do this before, but in one of the prior leagues that he played in before he got to the NBA, I mean, he scored 90 points in a game. So, I mean, this is definitely a player that has a lot of confidence with him. He's bringing into the league. And watch him at Summer League, man. I was very impressed. I knew nothing about him before Summer League. I saw him on the roster and I was just like, okay, maybe he comes in and has a few good games for us, but I did not expect him to drop double doubles and be a legitimate shot blocker, great footwork. And Miami, he was the go-to option in those down the stretch of the games that I watched them play in Vegas. I mean, they gave Yurtseven the ball, and I saw him hit a clutch mid-range shot in one of the games against Memphis to tie the game in the fourth quarter. And I mean, he has a great hook shot. He has great touch in the lane. So I expect him to get some decent run. I don't think he's going to start or anything like that, but I expect him to get off the bat, I think he's going to get some decent time, especially in garbage time. He's going to get a lot of play. And I mean, if something happens to Dedmon or they want to start Dedmon at some point, then I think the potential for his minutes goes up even higher. So I'm really high on him, and I think he's going to have a great year. And I think that only kind of like the Heat faithful really know about him right now. But once we get to the, farther down the season and he kind of makes himself known, maybe on the second unit or something, people are going to know a lot more about him. So I'm excited about what Yurtsevic can do now that he's in the big leagues now and not just playing in the G League or Summer League.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think this dude's going to become a Miami Heat fan favorite pretty quickly. But he's, like you said, he's got a lot of talent, and I'm excited to watch him play. So that's actually all I have as far as team notes go. Do you have anything that you want to go into as far as breakdown of the team goes before we get into the season predictions?
Yeah, honestly, man, like just looking at this team, I think one thing I wanted to touch on is, the depth of this team. I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit before, but it seems like people are kind of split on this aspect of the team. In some ways, I feel like they're really solid when it comes to their depth, but in other ways, it could be lacking a little bit, specifically at lead guard. Having Lowry there to start, and then Gabe Vincent essentially is that guy coming in the second unit to lead, to kind of bring the ball up and be a primary ball handler. So it's kind of like I'm kind of split on this team. I think they're deeper in as far as like the center rotation, the big man rotation. But when it comes to guard, specifically point guard, it's definitely lacking. So that's going to require Oladipo to probably soak up some of those reps and Hero to do the same. And Gabe Vincent is going to be expected to kind of accelerate his growth. So I'm really going to be kind of looking at that second unit because, the starters, if PJ starts with Bam and those other guys, what to expect. They've all been in the league for a long time, but the second unit, I'm really just kind of unsure. That's gonna determine if this team just barely makes the playoffs or they go to the conference finals or farther. That's kind of like the tipping point for me. So that's something I'll be keying in on, and I think that it's going to be a big indicator on how far Miami goes this season. With all those lofty expectations.
Yeah, man, that's some good points. The depth is definitely gonna be a huge thing. I recorded the Lakers video before this one, and that was another thing we talked about is like we're not really sure how their bench is going to get broken down and everything, and that's kind of going to be that make or break because that's another team like you pretty much know what you're getting with the starting lineup. It's going to be that next unit that's really unsure. So that's a good point to make and something to keep an eye on throughout the season for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, so season predictions. What you got for your Miami Heat?
All right, man. I'm going to be impartial as I can,
Right.
keep as realistic as possible. And, I think Miami is very capable of a top 4 seed. I'd say a realistic range is 3 to 5 for them. The East is tough, man. Like people got to understand that this is not the East from 2015 or 16 when, it was the Cavs and everybody else was just kind of following behind them. Like now you have a super team in this conference. That's not even the defending champs. The defending champs are still there. The Sixers still loom with their borderline MVP man in the middle. And then after that, you have some very good squads in that second tier with Miami, leading the charge. Atlanta is much improved. I'd say even Boston could find themselves in that mix. So, I mean, it could be a competitive conference with a lot of teams kind of vying for position. So honestly, man, I'll put the safe bet out there. I'll say, the 4th seed for them right now. I think a really realistic expectation in terms of wins would be somewhere in the mid 40s for them. If they can hit 44 to 45, I think that's a very good season for them. As we've seen, you don't need to be the number 1 seed to win a championship, to make the finals. You could be 3, you could be 4, you could just secure home court for the first round and just kind of make your way from there. So I look for Miami to have a very good season in terms of, their output from, offensive perspective with Lowry coming in. But I also think the defense is going to be solid as well, with, guys like Jimmy making their mark and PJ Tucker, and even Lowry's good on that end as well. So that's what I expect from them. And I think anything less than that would be a disappointment considering the amount of talent and the amount of resources that are being poured into this team as they try to make a run at making the finals again to win a championship.
Yeah, That's a good perspective. You got them kind of around the same win total I do. I put down 42 to 45 wins is kind of what I expect from them. So that's my little prediction expectation from them. So I did have them around like a 6 to 7 seed though. I really just, like you said, there's just so many teams in the East right now that are looking good. Like you said, you've got the Nets and the Bucks, and then you've got your like that next tier. You got Sixers, Celtics, Heat, Hawks, and I'd even put the Knicks in there. Like there's just so many teams at the top right now, or like in that second tier there. So unfortunately, this was the team that I kind of see falling again. And I had them like around 6 to 7 seed, and if they get pushed to the 7, that's play-in tournament. So
Yep.
if they get pushed down there, hopefully they don't for their sake. But that's where I had them ending up, was in the play-in tournament. But I did have them making it in as a 7 seed into the actual playoff bracket.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible that they find themselves down there. I would say if Oladipo doesn't look like himself, if there's an injury to Lowry or something like that, where there's not a lot of depth, I mean, it's definitely possible they can find themselves in a situation. As for me, I think it's more of like a worst case scenario if they end up there. I think if everybody is kind of healthy and, Jimmy and Bam are doing their thing, I think they're going to end up in the higher end of that range. But you just never know with these things, man. It just comes down to, you need a little bit of luck in the NBA. And, if Miami lacks that, then yeah, they can find themselves a little bit lower. So I'm excited to see how it turns out with the middle of the conference. It's going to be a dogfight beyond the 2 or 3 teams at the top. After that, it's just anything goes. You just never know how it's going to end up.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm going to hate about these videos is like these like 3 through like 9 teams in the East are just going to be so hard to predict. And I'm going to come out here and say like Heat finish around a 7 seed. They're going to finish around a 4, like 3 or 4. And people are going to be like, you're wrong. Like, you don't know basketball. Like,
that's the risk you take, man. Like when you go out in public and you make predictions and you put some takes out there, you're always vulnerable to look bad. So you win some, you lose some. That's kind of the way I've thought about it over the years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like you're not going to be 100% accurate all the time. So I want to go ahead and put all my predictions out there before the season gets started. So they're out there. People are going to have them on video. They want to come back and clip me or whatever, go for it. But gotta put it out there.
Well, here's the flip side, man. If you get something right, you look like a genius. Your win totals
exactly.
You could turn the tables on them. You could put it on Twitter. You could put it wherever you want, and then you look
exactly.
Like it goes both ways.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like if I come out here and post my finals prediction and it's accurate at the end of the season, people are going to be like, man, he's a credible source.
Yep. It's like, hey, get Devin a job out here as a reporter and insider. Like he knows what he's talking about. He must have known something we didn't before the season.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to look at it, man. Maybe give you a little more confidence, a little more courage to go out there and put some takes into the atmosphere just to see what happens.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And well, I gotta say this. I've said it in a ton of my videos already. All my predictions are based, assuming everyone stays healthy. We're not in a perfect world. That's not going to happen. But that's how my predictions are based. So, because you just can't predict injuries.
You can't. I mean, I wish everybody the best. And, some guys are a little bit more vulnerable than others. If we're going to look at a guy like, Jimmy Butler or something like that, I would say, or Bam, I'd feel confident saying like they're going to play at least 70 games.
Yeah.
But if we turn the tables and we're talking about Harden, maybe not Harden because last season might have been an outlier, but
but like an Anthony Davis.
Yeah, Anthony Davis, Kyrie, someone like that. Then maybe you need to temper expectations in the regular season because they have a tendency to miss regular season games.
Yep. All right, man. Well, that is all I got. To wrap us up here, make sure you go check out Aaron at Business Casual Basketball. I will link it in the description so you can go straight to the Instagram page, check them out, Spotify, Apple Music. They post on both of there, right? I know Spotify. Yep,
Spotify, Apple Music. We have a website, bcbasketball.info, for some articles and things like that. Twitter and Instagram, BC Basketball 2 is our handle. So there's a lot of places you can find us. So hopefully you guys will come check us out and kind of see some of the podcasts and other material we have for basketball fans to get into.
Perfect. Yeah, I will link all that in the description for everybody. Y'all make sure to leave a like on the video, comment, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and we will catch y'all on the next one. Peace out.